to All Things Special About Education. I'm Andrea Masterson, and I'm on the board of directors for KY IEP Advocate. And today I'm here with our host, founder, and executive director of KY IEP Advocate, Shannon Masterson. Today we're going to deep dive into the meeting notice document, and she's going to kind of give us a lot more information on what that is, and kind of what to expect. But very generally, the purpose is to give you the required 7 days notice prior to a meeting occurring. Shannon, can you kind of like just jump in and walk us through what that is?
So public school districts are required to give you at least 7 days notice before you have a meeting with them, so that this goes back to that meaningful participation, so that you are able to be prepared, and so that you are able to say, yes, this works for me, I will be here, or no, this doesn't work for me, we need to reschedule at a time or a place that does work for me. A lot of times, by the time you get this meeting notice, you've probably been back and forth on the phone or through email with somebody about getting it scheduled. And then once you've settled on time, place, virtual, in-person, call, whatever, then you'll get this meeting notice. So the date that's on it is likely a date that you've already agreed to. In some cases, that pre-planning doesn't happen, so you just get this meeting notice. It feels really official. It feels like you have to figure out how to do it or not go, when in reality, this goes back to the mutually agreed upon time and place. So you are able to negotiate and say, not available this date, not available this time, what else do you have?
And are you, if you want to move things up sooner, if you're negotiating time, are you able to waive your right to that? And so you can meet the next day or something like that? How does that part work?
Yeah, you can waive your 7 days notice. A lot of times if there's big behavior issue, some big event at school, and people can get together the next day or the day after, you can waive your 7 days so you can get in, take care of things, make some changes if necessary. Another time that you would waive 7 days notice is if you have a meeting and you're not done because there's too much to talk about, then sure, you give you 7 days notice, but maybe if everybody's available tomorrow morning, do you want to waive your 7 days notice so we can just continue this? And you'll just be able to continue that.
And this is an actual standard form that the state of Kentucky uses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'll look the same, and I have it pulled up on my phone. It is helpful to kind of really walk you through what to expect and how to be prepared. The top section of it has the purpose of the conference. The next section has the other people that have been invited to attend. And the date, and also at the top of it has the first, second, and third notice, a spot for them to check box. So it's an actual document. If you want to see what that document looks like, you can go to kyiepadvocate.org, and there's a link to the website, or from the website, there's a link to that form. So you can take a look at what that looks like. Can you talk a little bit about like how that form comes to you? Is it standard in any way?
A lot of different ways. Sometimes this form will just be emailed. Best case scenario, kind of at this point in the world we live in, best case scenario is you've already talked, you've already hashed out dates, times, so that you're not, this form doesn't go back and forth and you're like, I've got 4 forms with 4 dates, what are we talking about here? So best case scenario, you've gone back and forth, you've settled on time, place, virtual, in person, and you get the meeting notice. That's emailed to you, usually with a copy of the procedural safeguards, so they can, mentally check the box that they've given that to you at minimum every year. But then they have record of giving it to you, so there's no discrepancy about whether or not you got it or didn't get it. So best case scenario, it comes through email. Other case scenarios, comes home in your kid's backpack. So if you don't know to look for it, then maybe you don't know what's in there. Other case scenario, it gets mailed through the USPS, and we all just hope that you get it in a reasonable time. So best case scenario is you're engaging in communication between meetings. You've already set up the meeting, and then this comes what feels like a formality, but really is kind of the announcement. This is why we're getting together. Thank you for approaching us. Let's move forward.
Yeah. And while it looks formal, it looks to me super helpful to just be like, this is what we're going to talk about. And this is who we expect to be there, who we've invited to be there. Do parents have the ability to respond back to that document and say, oh, I don't see that the school psychologist is checked on here, but I think it's helpful to have them, or this date that is here doesn't work for me, or like what ability do parents have to kind of go back and forth to that?
So if they email it to you, likely that email comes from the ARC chair, the admissions release committee chair. So that person who's going to take the notes during the meetings and be sending you the meeting notice and coordinating everybody else's schedule. Once they send you a notice, reasonable to expect everybody at school is available that date and time. So they've done the back end work on that, and they're proposing this to you. So I don't know, a little more than halfway down, it says if you need to schedule this conference at a different time, date, or location, then it tells you to call the district representative. So the district representative's phone number is there. Again, back to keeping all these things in writing. It would be really helpful if they emailed it to you and you could just click reply and reply to their email so that this is all a written record. Email addresses in Kentucky are pretty easy to figure out. First name dot last name at county.kyschools.us. So
yeah,
not super easy if you have more than one teacher with the same name, but reasonable that you could figure it out. Or you hopefully have email access to somebody at school. But you can negotiate a different time. It's a good way to let them know, hey, I'm good with this date and time, but I need a link because I can't show up there. I need to do this virtually. That's thankfully an easier option.
So that being 2024.
Yeah. Yes. And easier for the school staff members. If you're not at that building that day, you can still virtually attend a meeting that you may not be able to attend otherwise.
Yeah. And say that you get this meeting notice document, the date and time does work for you, you know, kind of things to come back and negotiate. What do you recommend to be the next step for the parent?
This is the point where I would send an email and ask for all documents that are going to be reviewed in this meeting. So any document, any assessment write-up, progress reports, anything that's going to be reviewed in this meeting be emailed to you in the amount of time that feels good to you, that makes sense to you. If you ask for it in a week in advance and this is 7 days in advance, they may not be ready to give you this stuff today. 48 hours seems pretty reasonable. Get it done 2 days ahead of time and send you at least what they have and what they're working on. I've worked in the schools. It's kind of, that would not be super great if I planned on working on something over the weekend for a Monday meeting. Yeah. But if this is the way that you've been operating and you have a good relationship with these people, then it doesn't feel bad to say, sure, I'll give you everything I have by Friday. And then, you show up on Monday and somebody says, I thought more about this. I'd like to change this. I'd like to add this. I don't want to do this. But at least you're able to review documents and plans and stuff in advance. And then also starting to be prepared to send in your parent concern email to ensure your meaningful participation in the process, but also you've got an idea of the purpose of this meeting. So what are your concerns related to updating an IEP or eligibility and drafting or evaluation? And being able to write down all of your concerns, all of your requests ahead of time. So you're not sitting in a meeting and thinking like, oh, I wish I would have said that. I forgot to say this. Or in some unfortunate cases, you're like, they never asked. So I didn't know when to raise my hand. I wasn't sure. Or super unfortunate, you have a phone meeting and literally they can't see you and maybe can't hear you that well. So then when do you get to speak up? But if you put all that in writing ahead of time, then they are able to come prepared to respond to your requests.
Yeah, I feel like that is also just underlying the spirit of like, this is a team effort, this is a team decision. You, as a parent, are a part of the team. Going back to, you just said it, meaningful participation and being able to really be feel comfortable and prepared, and like you are a part of the team and you are a part of the decision making process as you kind of go along. um, Anything else that you can think of as far as like what what to expect in that process, or like helpful tips? I feel the need to say again, like, this could come in a variety of different ways, including your kid's backpack. In a few episodes back, you talked about, some children um, maybe struggling with organization. So if it's coming home and it's coming home with your kid, keep your eyes out for it, ask those questions. Anything else like that that you can think of as far as things to watch out for, what to expect and be prepared for?
You don't always have to sit back and wait for them to
Mhm.
initiate this process. So it does feel like, how do I even know what to expect when I don't even know that this is coming? But it's totally fine for you to be like, hey, we haven't talked as a team in a while. They have to meet with you at least once per year,
Mhm.
but you meet more often. So if you haven't heard from anybody, or you think there needs to be a change, or you want to get together and have a discussion about something, then you can do that. And then this isn't, to be looking for this. You can be asking like, hey, what would be really helpful if you didn't put it in the backpack. That would be great.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of just always goes back to building bridges and having open lines of communication to make sure that the best way to get me information is through this email address, so that all of the school stuff goes to this email address. And you may have to remind them a lot of times because that's just not something that maybe they're used to doing. But if if this starts out in a way that puts you in a more proactive position and the school district is used to you being in a proactive position, then it doesn't surprise anybody that you say, hey, I'd like to have the documents 48 hours before the meeting. Hey, here's my parent concern email. So these are the things I'd like to work on. These are the things that I'm asking for. It doesn't come as a surprise to anybody that you're showing up with questions if that's how it starts at the beginning.
Yeah, I feel like these are all really helpful ways to just like increase your chances of success and having like really productive meetings to be prepared, and also to feel like you are walking into this and you know what to expect and what might happen. Again, I'll plug there's a link to this specific form on your website, kyepadvocate.org. So I encourage people to take a look at it. That way you can kind of get an idea of what might be on it. Note that it's specific to Kentucky. If you are from a different state, the process might be a little bit different, but this one specifically for Kentucky. Any other like kind of key takeaways, key like tips and tricks for success kind of things?
I think it's always going to go back to keeping your communication in writing.
Yeah.
So, one thing that you mentioned, the top of this form has that first, second, and third notice. So, that helps everybody. It helps everybody if this comes through email, because then there's a timestamp, and then when it got sent, they know when it got sent. That just reduces the possibility that the district's going to have a meeting without you if you are well aware that this meeting notice is coming through and you're able to look for it and you're able to respond to it, to let them know that this doesn't work for you and you'd like it to be rescheduled, not I'm choosing not to come.
So helpful and good reminders in general. If this is helpful at all to you, stay tuned. We'll have more episodes with Shannon where she'll go over drafting of an IEP, parent rights, procedural safeguards. There'll be some interviews with people who are involved with the process. kind of a deep dive on the 13 different categories of disabilities and more, all different kinds of things. Again, check out her website, kyepadvocate.org. You can also find KYEP Advocate on Facebook and Instagram as well. So lots of resources, lots of things to kind of help you be successful. And thanks so much for walking us through that.